everyone. Good morning. Welcome to today's session. My name is 𝐤𝐲 and I just wanted to welcome you all. Please join in. We'll start the session in some time. Just give us a couple of minutes so that we can have more people join in. Thank you. Great. Now that we have few folks online, I just wanted to quickly work on repeat the instructions for today. So how can you earn points for the leaderboard? There are three activities that will add to your leaderboard score. The first is earn 5 Lambda product certifications. Just wanted to remind that you have time till 8 June 12 p.m. IST to complete all the certifications. You can also attend all the sessions and earn the score. There were few queries on how the score was calculated for the session attendance. Just wanted to share that whenever you are attending a session, 50 points would be allocated to you irrespective of the time or duration for which you are attending the session. But that's it. We would request you to join all the sessions so that you can earn the 50 points. Apart from that, you can participate in the session quizzes that happens whenever we have a session quiz at 3 p.m. IST. All your points from these activities will tally up on our leaderboard, and the top 10 scores will advance to the grand finale of Testathon. These are the certification points. Cross-browser testing is for 100 points, mobile app testing, analytics, SmartUI again, and hyper-execute is for 200 points. You can re-attempt the certification exam only after 45 days. Attendance points, as I said, the maximum point, the score would be 50 points. On the quiz points, the adding up the quiz point, every quiz will give you you have a chance to get 50 points in it. The maximum points one can score will be 1300. If you have any queries and if you're still facing issues logging into your certification portal or Lambda portal, please write to us at testathon@lambdatest.com so that we can help you resolve it. Yeah, that's about it for now. I'll just check if we have the speaker over here. Unfortunately, he was facing some network issues. Just give me a second. I'm really sorry if speaker is facing some network issues because of which he's unable to join. I would just request you to wait for 2 minutes. Great. Uh, we have a speaker, Sri Vishnu, here. Hi, Vishnu. Can you hear us?
Hey Kavya, yes, I can hear you guys.
All right. Shri Vishnu, over to you. You folks would already be aware of Vishnu. He also took the session for analytics last week. He would be taking today's session that is on Smart UI hands-on workshop. Over to you, Shri Vishnu.
Thank you Kavya for the introduction. Hey guys, good morning and welcome to the Smart UI visual regression testing session. of Lambda test products. I'll quickly, like start sharing with my screen and we can continue our discussion. Okay, I hope my screen is visible. So the agenda of today's session would be the following. So we will start with what is visual regression test, and we will discuss about, like how manual screenshot and responsive testing, is done with the different kinds of screenshot resolution and sizes. Then we will talk about the hands-on, like demo for SmartUI with web frameworks. And then we will be talking about advanced SmartUI testing on real devices, how to do that. And lastly, we will take some question and answers for the same. So initially, to get started, what is visual regression testing? So visual regression testing is type of a new style of testing which has been introduced in the market because like it's very hard for a visual eye or a human eye to actually like detect very small like UI changes which could be like same as we see for like different websites. There could be a very slight color change, or it could be very like a slight difference between the position in which a particular element has been located or such. So when we are actually conducting any kind of like testing using, let's say, Selenium, or like any kind of a manual testing as well, we might ignore these kind of changes because this is something which is not easy to detect by a human eye, and Selenium doesn't like check for the exact positioning of that particular element, whereas it will just check whether that particular element is present within the web page or not. So that is where like industry has come up with a new kind of testing technique, which would actually like help in understanding the exact match between the baseline. That would be a screenshot where there will be like different kinds of pixels which has been generated by that screenshot, and that particular screenshot will be considered as a baseline, and there'll be a new screenshot which is a non-baseline screenshot which will be compared against it, and we can find the different kinds of differences very easily, which could not be like captured by a human eye or through any kind of an automation script as of now. So moving forward, so talking about the screenshot testing. So screenshot testing is some kind of a tool which we offer on the market where you can capture n number of screenshots and like automatically select just a simple URL on the platform. So I'll just give the demo for the same. So within our application, you can just go to the more tools and select screenshot. And yes, I can just place my URL here. I can just say https amazon.com, and I can select what kind of combinations I want to generate the screenshots for. For example, let's say I want to capture for Chrome and then Firefox latest versions, and then Opera and then Edge. And I want to also capture for, let's say, Windows 10 latest browser versions as well. And I also want to check it in the Mac OS. How is it looking like? I can also select the same. And I want to check for Catalina maybe. So I just need to make my choices. Like I'll just need to enter my website and I have to make my choices on which different kinds of versions of browsers I want to capture the screenshot for. And apart from this, you can also sell if there is any kind of an authentication which is there for your, like URL or a website which you are trying to test internally with some basic auth application, then you can just select this, provide your username and password here, so that that gets automatically filled and it gets logged in to that particular URL. And we also have a different approach where if you want to log in via different URL and locate elements and provide your credentials, if there is a form or such, then in that particular scenario, you can also use this particular ability or a feature as well. So Apart from this, you can also schedule screenshot tests. So what does this mean is that you can actually put up a time, like every day at 1 a.m. weekly, at Monday, you can actually capture all the screenshots and schedule this particular test as well. So you just need to hit capture. Once you hit capture, it will start, going to this different kind of OS and browser combinations which we have selected, and it will start generating the screenshots. And just to highlight, why is this also important is that different kinds of browsers are having, different kinds of render engines by themselves. So there could be a text which could be rendered, let's say, in certain format in Chrome, and there could be the same text rendered in different format in Firefox. So that is, there could be a very minor change between these two on the kind of positioning and padding and how the CSS has been rendered. So it is very important for us to, actually check this and match so that we are actually, releasing our applications at Pixel Perfect into the market. Yep. So the screenshots are now being captured. As you can see, I can just select on the screenshots and I can view them, or I can also click them to download here independently. Or if I want to download them all, there is also an ability to, click on download all zip or download all as a PDF option as well. And you can get to download them on your local machine and verify all these different kinds of, resolutions and browsers which are being captured, are they as expected or not as per the UI design which has been prepared. Just one test which has been pending. So yeah, so as you can see, you can also select, if let's say, if something is wrong which is not as expected, let's say if there is no search icon which is missing here, then I can also mark this as a issue, and I can also raise a bug with my internal Lambda tool, or if you have any kind of a third-party supported integration started, I can also raise a bug here with my third-party support platforms as well. And I can also put up a text saying that no searches, no search icon here, and yeah, and mark my bug. So this way, it is pretty easy for me to understand, okay, how it's being captured at different browsers and OS. And as you can see, there is a search icon here, and there is also a drop down here, but that was actually missing in the previous screenshot, which we have checked. So this way, it is pretty easy to understand, okay, if all the visual elements are the same in different kinds of browsers and resolutions are not as expected. And if it's the same, then you can actually pass the test. If it is not the same, then you can actually raise these bugs and, inform the developer team to inform the issues. Cool. So going down to the next topic of the session. So that would be about Lambda Test Smart UI. So before we actually jump into this, I would also like to show, our responsive testing as well. So here you can actually put up a URL, let's say, google.com, and we generate different kinds of, you can actually with single click check, how it's going to look in different kinds of devices like this. So, for example, if I just go to the same example as Amazon, so it's going to render the website on different kinds of viewports. Still loading. I think it has loaded here. So as you can see, it has loaded here, and I can test my website by interacting with it. and checking, like how is it going to be in different kinds of mobile viewports as well to check whether my website is responsive or not. And if there is any kind of issue which you want to debug, you can just select on this debug console and okay, you can also, like rotate on check, like whether it is as expected or not. And you can also expand this to have a better view of that particular app which you're trying to test so that you can hide the whole toolbar. And if you want to raise a bug here, there is also a mark as bug option, and through which, like our third-party tools can be integrated, and you can directly raise that particular, like bug which has been found on the UI to your team. So that is majorly what we offer at like the manual testing side of the products. Now, like talking about the Lambda Test Smart UI. So Lambda Test Smart UI is something like as it is very tedious to independently check each and every website, right? So that is where like we have come up with a better solution and an automated process where using a script you can actually like capture all different kinds of screenshots, and this could be automated, and this could be also captured with a high precision where you know to manually test. As you can see, it was a very big challenge where still I have to manually look for these kind of visual changes on different browsers and OS versions, right? So now with the Smart UI tool, what happens is that within your functional flow, or let's say within any kind of a framework, or like Selenium CDP or Cypress frameworks, which are currently market offers, if you want to utilize them, and you can actually quickly generate screenshots within your functional flow and check each and every state as well is maintained as per the requirement, and you can also compare these by pixel to pixel comparison. So when I talk about pixel to pixel comparison, it's very like rudimentary, is that uh, if there is an image A and if there is an image B, uh, then we just match the exact pixel block of the image A with image B. And if there is any kind of a difference, then those changes will be highlighted by the platform. And apart from that, our platform also provides advanced false positive management. So if there is any kind of like compression issues, so if we capture any kind of image once and it gets compressed, so there could be some kind of a scaling activity for color. It could be scaled for like anti-aliasing could be done. So all of these issues could be a major concern where like it could be also generating a couple of like false positive results showing that there could be a difference between your baseline versus non-baseline. And apart from that, we also do support SmartUI GitHub app integration, where if you want to raise a PR, before you actually merge those changes to your branch, you can actually utilize this particular PR check app, where it'll actually, like run the test in the backend and trigger all the SmartUI tests. It'll verify that all the changes are according to expected or not. If they are not, then it'll highlight there saying that there are a couple of like changes found and which needs approval, and through which if these changes are like something which you want to verify, and once you verify and approve them, then you can come back to your PR and merge them. If there are no changes found, then it's good to you can actually merge all these changes to production like branch of your choice. And apart from that, like we do also provide a webhook feature where you can actually easily fetch the results, and you want to put some logic on top. Like for example, let's say if there is any kind of a mismatch which has been found, and you want to fail your functional test as well, so that it's much more like easy for your reporting purposes or such. So in that way as well, it is possible. So I'll quickly like get into the demo of the same. So we have the whole documentation here in our public docs. You guys can quickly visit them. So we do support all these different of frameworks which we currently have. And for today, for the demo for web, I will be using Selenium. So I'll just quickly get to the repo. So this is our sample repository. With that, set it up in my cloud environment. So I am open my VS Code, and within this repository, we have like different kinds of examples which you guys can look into. So for today, I'll go with a very basic, like Selenium test. Yes. So this particular test.js file has been called a simple WebDriver function, which is called the Selenium WebDriver, which is a package supported by Node.js. And I'll be utilizing this particular, like library, and I'll be showing the demo. Now, as you can see, have to pass my username and access key as similar to the previous demos which we had, or the previous sessions which we had for the automation testing as well. And you have to connect to the group, like a grid host of the Selenium hosted platform of Lambda test. So this is the hub connection which needs to be created. And you can pass different kinds of capabilities, like what should be your platform. So currently I have chosen the platform as Windows 10 in the demo. And you can also choose, like what browser name you want to run on. And currently I've chosen Chrome and the latest version of the browser. You can also set up your what should be your queue timeout limit. This is not essentially required, but currently we have added that in the demo. And you can also put visual true, where this capability will help you capture screenshots at every step which has been triggered on the browser. And these are your username and access key, which we have mentioned earlier, which we need to pass in the capabilities. And you can name your test session. This would be the session in which wherever the automation test has been triggered, you can actually name that. And this is the name of the build. So now additionally, what you have to do is that within all these capabilities, you have to add one more capability called SmartUI.project. So for us to do that, I'll get into the platform and I'll select SmartUI. Yes, so this is how the SmartUI platform would look like. So for us to create a project, it's very easy. I can just select on this new project, and I have to select whether I have to choose web project or a real devices project. So we do support both. So for this demo, I'll be using web demo, and we will say this as Testathon demo project. And I'll just copy this name, keep it. And I can also add multiple approvers. So what is the role of these approvers? Basically, if there is any kind of a changes found while we run the Smart UI test, and that needs to be verified by, like some tester, so which like which needs manual intervention. So for that particular purpose, for any kind of project within the user ecosystem, you have to add an approval. So for now, I'll just keep myself and as well as one of my like teammate as well as an approver, so that we both get notified if there is any kind of a changes found. And additionally, I can also put, like different kinds of tags so that it is very easy for my filtering purposes. And it could be something like testing for UAT, or it could be some kind of an environment which you internally have that could be also used within this tags. So now my project has been successfully created. I just need to simply copy this particular project name and put it here. That's it. So additionally, we also have like support for different kinds of options. Let's say if you want to add more screenshots within the same, like a build. And in that case, what you can do is that you can actually specify a particular build name as well, so that if all the screenshots which have been captured needs to be uploaded, there could be, like multiple, functional tests you might run, but you want all of these, screenshots which have been captured in multiple tests in one build, so that you can make a easy comparison with, like all those screenshots which are generated with non-baseline builds. So in that particular use case, you can actually, like put up this particular capability, which is called SmartUI.build, and you can mention any name of your choice. If this particular, like capability is not mentioned, in that particular scenario, our system will automatically generate a particular build name and associate that with the project. And I'll talk about these options once we run the first demo. So going down to the particular test, so I'll be navigating to, let's say, Amazon.com. And what I'm doing here is very simple. So I've just used the driver function, and I've made the driver function go to the URL. And once it opens up the URL on the browser session, then we are going to simply, trigger this particular function driver.execute script take screenshot. And this is the webhook which is needed for you to add within your, like any kind of an automation script, which will actually capture that particular screenshot of that page. And once the screenshot has been captured, it will directly add to the build and which is ready for your comparison. So I'll quickly start up the terminal. Terminal is started. We install all the packages. Packages have been installed. So I'll just run npm run test. As you can see, there were 0 builds before on this project, and now we have added a build to this project, and the test has triggered. So by default, for any kind of a new project which has been created on the platform, the first index build of that particular project will be marked by default as baseline. So there are multiple ways in which this baseline could be also handled. We'll be discussing in the next runs. So now the baseline has been generated. I can just select on that particular build. And yep, this is my screenshot now. So I've captured the Amazon.com screenshot. I wanted to verify this now, whether it is the same in every run which I make or not. So I can just quickly, generate some visual differences by changing some time in here and run the same test. It's taking the screenshot. Screenshot has been taken successfully. Now we can see it on here. I got the screenshot now. It is processing for the Visual UI comparison. Once that particular process has been complete, then we get to see the results. So as you can see with this in the second build, which has been generated, is not marked as baseline because according to our concept, the first build or let's say the index build is now set as baseline. So for you to switch this as baseline, there's a simple option here on a UI to like make this as a baseline, and you can just click this, or you can also come back to the script, and within the script you can actually pass something called SmartUI dot smart sorry one second, SmartUI dot baseline, and then you can mark this as boolean value like true and set it up as well. So once you put like this flag which says SmartUI dot baseline as true, then in that particular case, the build which has been generated on executing this particular test automatically creates that as a new baseline in the project. So any kind of a comparison which happens against this particular build. So as we have created now, this is my baseline build, and we have seen that particular image. Now let's see how it's been generated on the non-baseline build. as it was showing some differences. As you can see, this these all sections remain the same, but once I have added the weight, there are a couple of other sections which have changed. And those particular, like sections which have changed has been highlighted here in the screenshot. And you can turn off the comparison view and see exactly, like what has been changed, turn it on. As you can see, this particular section has been moved this side and this section has come this side. There's a switch in these two sections, and there is also a banner image change here. You can also check on the horizontal view. You can zoom in exactly where you want to see, like if there is any kind of difference, you want to zoom in and check, that's also possible. And within the zoom, as you can see, there are different kinds of lines which are been created. So that is how we measure, like according to our algorithm at the different pixel blocks. So you can also turn off your comparison, zoom in the picture and see, like if there is any kind of changes which you want to specifically identify. You can also switch between the baseline and the captured screenshot as well. If you find any kind of an issue, let's say if this particular comparison or let's say this particular screenshot is something, like which is expected, then you can actually come here and approve on that particular screenshot. And once you do that, the screenshot status automatically changes to approved. And now your build status is approved. So I will run one more build. So as you can see, now we have put that particular build as baseline. So automatically the new, like build which has been generated is now set to baseline with this particular flag. I generate one more build where I can actually specify that particular build name and add multiple screenshots to it. So I'll just run this test now. As you can see, we got a new, like screenshot which has been, sorry, which we have got a new build which has been generated where we have not you got any kind of random generated build names, and we have got the build which specified exactly within the script. Yeah. So let's select on that particular build, and yep, these are the different kinds of changes which has been found. I can just check. There's like change in these different kinds of sections, and this is something which has been highlighted now by the platform. And if let's say like this is not something which is expected, let's say in the previous scenario we have checked that that was something which was okay for us to go ahead because there is something which is expected. But let's say if this particular change is not expected and you want to reject this particular screenshot, you can also do that by selecting this particular option, reject. Then there's a pop-up message. I say yes to reject this. And now this particular test has been rejected, and your build status shows rejected as well for the same. Additionally, we also do lot, like do support lot of different project settings as well. Just waiting for it to load. Yes. So here you can actually manage anything about your project which has been created. So you can, if you want to change your name of your project at any point of time, you can come here, you can change the name. If you want to add more approvers or remove any approvers according to your requirement, that could be also managed from here. If you want to add more tags or remove any tags, that also would be done. And here we also have different kinds of, like false positive options as we discussed in the earlier slide. So if you select, like anti-aliasing, so this is a basic, like kind of a demo, what we currently have by changing the settings, how it will look like. So if you select aliasing, then it's going to look like this. If you select less, then it's going to generate your output screenshots with differences in this way, where you get to see more, deeper, like changes as well. And if you say, like do nothing, just I want to exactly get the perfect pixel match, in that particular case, we will show exactly, like all the differences within the baseline and the non-baseline which has been created, and which could also include some kind of false positive elements, which could be generated by the compression algorithm like PNG or JPEGs. So if they ignore alpha, so that means that if there is any kind of alpha scaling which has been done, that will be ignored, and rest of the other changes will be, like displayed to you. If you select ignore colors, then if there is any kind of a color scaling which has been done during the comparison, that particular scaling will be removed, so that you get to see exactly, like the differences without any kind of false positives. So according to the major industry standard, most of them follow ignore anti-aliasing, so that it's much more easy to identify the differences very specific to that particular pixel changes in the UI. As you can see in this particular screenshot, there is a clock here and there is a line here, and there is no clock here and a line, so that's being exactly highlighted. There was no pot here, and that's being shown here. And there is one more circle which has been added, that's been shown here, and there is no, like third line in the non-baseline image, and that's been highlighted as well. But if you change this to any of the other things, then it will also highlight, like the differences much more detailed, where there could be some kind of alpha changes, etc. Yeah. Apart from that, we also do support different kinds of error type identifiers. So if you want to capture the pixel differences which are flat in nature, that also could be done. If you want to identify within movement changes, like if there is any kind of movement within that particular pixel, that also could be identified. If you want to select movement with different intensity, like if there is any kind of change in the kind of color or RGBA values within the movement, that could be also selected. If you want to check only those particular, like items which are different from your baseline to the non-baseline, in that particular case, you can actually select different portion from the input. And there's also an option where you can identify the changes flat with different intensity. So within that particular flat pixel changes, if there is a kind of a different intensity you want to measure, you can also select this particular identifier of error types. And we also have pixel threshold. So pixel threshold is something whenever an image has been captured, it captures on a full resolution, let's say some 1920p x into 1080. But in that particular case, what happens is that it will be very, like lengthy process for us to process all these images, and you have to wait for longer hours to get the comparison results. So if you want to set up any kind of a threshold and like decrease that particular image size, let's say if I set this to 100, so what it'll do is that it'll actually capture that image. It'll scale down to 100 pixel square block, and then it'll run the comparison and it'll check. So in the same way, we provide that capability, like at what level of threshold you want to set your comparison at. So we recommend you to set it somewhere about 2500, or let's say anywhere from 2000 to around 3000. And if you want to do a very strict comparison, want to identify even very minute changes, in that particular case, we would recommend to put your threshold at 5000. And apart from that, we also have an ability to resize image. So if you want to, like scale that particular image, if there is any kind of a difference between the pixel images which are being generated, if you want to use exactly how the original image has been generated, or you want to scale to that particular size, that also is available within the project settings. And you can also set you want to see an opaque based comparison, or if you want to see the transparent based comparison, that is also something which we do offer. And you can also change the different kinds of error colors which you want. For example, let's say I can give a custom color of my RGB green, RGB values could be put here. And according to that, like your error highlight colors also will change. Or let's say, you want to select something predefined, I can also select from that. And the color or highlight color automatically, like updates according to the selected like color in the project settings. And apart from this, we also do offer something called custom mismatch percentage acceptance rate. So what does that mean is that, so in the previous test execution, we have actually seen that couple of, like different classes which are being generated. Let's say this is the threshold value at which, like we have discussed within the settings. So this particular test has been run at a threshold of 100, and there is a mismatch of about 9.58%, which has been identified. Now, if you say, "Hey, you know what? Any kind of a, uh, i- test output which is having mismatch of, like less than 10% is auto accepted, and I don't want those kind of changes to be, like notified to an approver." In that particular case, what we can do is that we can set this value to 10%, and anything which is less than 10% will be system approved. That means that automatically our system would say there are no changes found, and it will automatically approve on our behalf. And if in the same case, if you want to put, let's say, hey, you know what, if anything, like less than 5% or should be, or anything which is more than 5% should be rejected by default, then in that particular case, what we can do is that we can set this particular auto rejection rate at 5%, and any kind of a mismatch which goes above 5% will be automatically rejected by the system without any kind of a manual intervention which is required by the user. So this is how, like you can utilize this particular, setting, which could help you, like simplify according to your requirements as well. And now I'll be also talking about bounding boxes. So bounding boxes are something where you can actually create, or let's say draw a box on the image where you can provide those, like rectangle, or let's say, like your rectangle values from top, left, right, bottom, how we want to draw it. And it starts from this particular index point, and it creates a box. Let's say if you give left 10, then it'll go some 10 pixel blocks here, and then it will start creating a box here. So why is this box important is that if there are any kind of a dynamic elements and you think that, okay, this particular element will always keep on changing on a regular basis, and that needs to be ignored, because that is again a false positive for you. So in that particular case, you can actually provide this particular dimensions and specify a box where you want to specifically select that particular area for comparison, or you can also select ignore, where that particular area will be ignored and rest of the area will be compared for the Smart UI visual regression test. And additionally, in the similar fashion, let's say if there's any kind of a, like a random colors which are been flashing on your website, and that is something which is, like expected, then you can actually mention that particular color which needs to be ignored, and you can provide the RGBA values, and that will be automatically ignored from your comparison view as well. Yeah. So additionally, like if you want to notify your approver on every change, like let's say if there's any kind of a mismatch found from your build which has been run, and there's some kind of a manual intervention required where they have to visually verify these changes and then approve or reject that particular test. uh, so we can also enable this particular option, and once you enable and update these settings, then the approver will be getting an email for all the mismatches which have been found. So additionally, we also do support a Lambda test badge. So you can just simply copy this particular URL, add it to your README files, and this is majorly for open source projects. So if you want to just show that, okay, this is something, like visually tested, you can also add this particular badge. And if you want to delete this project, you can just come here and click on this project, and your project will be deleted permanently. So, as we are discussing about the bounding boxes, I will also like to discuss that there is also an additional opportunity where you can actually use our HTML DOM configuration and options, where you can just pass that particular, DOM ID, let's say header or footer, which will have some kind of dynamic elements which you want to ignore. Then you can just pass that particular HTML ID here within our webhook. That would be this webhook, and you can also, like pass different kinds of CSS classes as well, And wherever this particular ID, or let's say this particular CSS class has been used within the DOM, we will actually draw a box for you in the behind, and all of these particular dynamic elements could be ignored so that you can get less false positives, and yet need not to draw boxes manually by mentioning, these particular dimensions here, which is very tedious as well in some cases. So this way you can actually, manage all your project settings, and also dynamically handle your HTML elements within the webhook which has been created. So going ahead on the demo, so we have actually, discussed about the DOM comparison as well. I've discussed about the email reports, and coming down to the GitHub app integration, I'll just quickly show that as well. So it's a very simple and easy process to actually set up a GitHub app integration. So you can actually, come to our platform, and within the integrations page, you can actually select the GitHub section. And once you do that, you have to select OAuth as the, authentication mechanism, and click on install. And once you install, it will actually, redirect your page to GitHub, and you have to approve or allow all the permissions for all the repositories which need access for this to run. So once that has been completed, then the authentication will be done from GitHub side, and you can see something like this, which has been added to your integrations page. So once this integration has been completed, then you can additionally, within the capabilities, you have to add this particular GitHub section, and you have to provide the particular URL of that particular, GitHub API, which needs to be triggered. And these are all different kinds of optional parameters which are not essentially required, but this is something which is mandatory to be added within the capability script. So once this particular API has also been added within the capabilities, then you can set up your CI configuration, where let's say you can add something like this in a YAML file, where you can say execute SmartUI test or so, and which OS you want to run in the CI pipeline. And you can also mention a step which can check out to the actions checkout. And this is the particular API which needs to be included within your CI file. And once this particular API has been run, it will actually trigger this particular test automatically. And apart from that, once this job has been triggered, then it'll show these kind of checks between your Lambda test CI pipeline. Or let's say whenever you raise a PR, you can run the you can configure your particular CI in such a way that whenever I raise a PR, it'll automatically trigger this job. And once this job has been completed, it'll provide you those results on your PR directly, like whether okay, my functional tests have been successfully executed, and then my smart UI tests have been successfully executed. Now this branch will automatically say, hey, you know what, it is ready to get merged without any issues found, since there are one screenshot and one screenshot is automatically approved as well, there are no changes found. But if there is any kind of a changes found and that needs some kind of an intervention required, then you'll get to see something like this. Your functional check is green, but your smart UI has been rejected. So you can just click on these details and get directly landed on this particular page, and quickly verify, okay, like what are all the differences which have been found, and you want to either accept them or reject them. In If you reject them, then you can actually also reject your PR and make those changes and raise a new PR, so that your checks are always green, so that there is no kind of a visual issues which are being found by running this visual test. Then let's talk about how it can be integrated with Cypress. So it's much more easy with Cypress. I'll just like show on this. So for running a Cypress test, you would need to install all the requirements of Cypress, and then similar process what we have followed for the Selenium demo could be used here in the Cypress as well. And It's a very simple configuration change which needs to be done. So how we have added, like in the Selenium capability about that Smart UI dot project name. In the same way, within that particular Cypress configuration of Lambda test, you have to add this particular Smart UI section where you have to mention this particular project name very specifically. And build name is something which is optional again, and setting up this baseline is also optional, but project name is mandatory so that we can identify, okay, this particular, like Cypress test belongs to this project. And you can also, once this particular, like configuration is done, you just simply need to add cy.screenshot into your particular, like execution steps. So as you can see in this particular code block, you can just simply click on cy.screenshot and add a screenshot name and run your test. So once you do this, automatically, like our algorithm will understand, okay, this is where we have to capture the screenshot and attach this particular screenshot into this project for visual comparison. And there will be a build generated similar to what we have seen in Selenium demo. And that way it is, like capturing all these particular screenshots for your visual regression test process. So coming down, we also do support about the mobile, like real devices as well as emulators and simulators in the similar fashion. So I'll be also giving a walkthrough on that. So it's very easy to set up. It's the similar kind of a process, but the only change what we have to do here is that I'll just go to the home page and I'll just select, instead of web, I have to select real devices in case I have an application, a mobile application which I want to test it for my visual regression purpose. So let's say Testathon demo real device. And I can also select any approver of my choice, similar to what we have done before, and create my project. So as you can see, there's a different kinds of like project types which we have been created. And once we have something on the real device, uh, so for us to execute a real device test, it's going to be a little different because it's not the same framework which is supported like Selenium or Cypress or any other CDP frameworks. For you have to use something called Appium. So Appium is a open source framework which is used to like test different kinds of like mobile app applications. So the steps here you have to follow is that like additionally you have to also upload your application. So it could be an iOS or an Android application, so you can just simply like copy this kind of curl and like put up your particular app file of your APK and upload that particular APK file into the system. And once you upload that particular APK file into your system, then we have your application would be used. And you can actually, like pick up the sample. And this is something which we already have for our Node.js platform. So you can set up the authentication. And once the authentication is set up, then similar to the changes what we have done in our, like Selenium script, we have to also do the similar kind of changes here in the capabilities. So as you can see, we can use different kinds of device names like iPhone 12, etc. And we also have different kinds of platform supported like iOS, Android, etc. You can also select which version of that particular OS. Let's say iPhone 14, you want to select 16, or let's say Android could be again like Android 8, 9, whatever according to your choice. You can actually select, and you have to pass this particular flag if you want to run it on a real device, and if you want to run it on an emulator simulator, you can remove this particular flag as well. And this is the app URL which needs to be passed. So once you upload your app using this particular curl request, then you will get an URL which will be generated from our system. And that particular URL can be utilized to actually, like get to say. So let me actually show the demo. I think that will be much more easy for you guys. Mm. So I'll be just using this API. Just copy that and I'll pull up a terminal. Just so as you can see, I have copied that particular app. I'll just need to hit enter. And once I hit enter, as you can see, this is the URL in which it got uploaded. So my particular application, which where I have actually, like uploaded into the Lamp test platform. So this is the URL which needs to be passed in that particular test script. So I can just go to android.js. So as you can see, this is the, like app URL at which this particular, artifact has been uploaded upon. And these are the different kinds of commands, the appium which would support within that particular test as well. So additionally, let's say, like if you want to run any kind of visual regression test within this particular functional flow, I'll just get back to the documentation. Yeah. So this particular capability needs to add it, that is SmartUI.project. So we have already created a project. So I'll just copy this project. I can just say here by dot project as a string value. That's it. And I'm not currently passing any build name or such for the demo. If additionally required, we can also do the same as I've shown in the Selenium demo. And additionally, this particular hook name needs passed. So I'll just copy this hook name here. Go to the script. So wherever I want this particular, like section, so I'll just say, hey, you know what, here after this driver dot, like wait element, I would actually, like want to capture this particular, let's say, like function. Then I'll do dot then. I'll just write a function. This particular webhook. I'll put a screenshot name as test. Save this script. So now I'll need to just do node android.js and hit the test. As you can see, a build has been generated within the real device flow, and it is now trying to capture that particular screenshot. So you can also see that, like your functional tests are also being executed parallelly along with the visual regression test. Yep. So as you can see, my test has been successfully completed, and this is the sample test which have been triggered. And as you can see, I've also captured my visual screenshot as well for that particular app test. This is my app test, and as you can see, this is my baseline, like image which is now been created. Now, let's say, like I'll run one more test just to show the sample demo. As you can see, since this is my first build, it has been created as a baseline, and now my second build also has been triggered. Let's wait for the execution to be completed. Yes. can select this and check if there are any kind of changes. As you can see, there are a couple of visual changes here, and that's being identified. And this particular, like section was scrolled down, which was not as per the baseline. Can also select horizontal and different views similar to the web. I can also, like close my sidebar to get a much more better view. And this is your real app, which is being actually, like captured for your testing process. So similar to all other options which we have discussed, you can actually approve, reject, or raise a bug. And you can also set different kinds of thresholds. And as you can see, the mismatch is something also being generated here. All other, different kinds of settings are similar to between, like real device as well as web. Yes. So this is about the real device demo. So now, we also do support something called Storybook. So Storybook is a component library, which has been, an open source library, which has been used by lot of, like the front end developers right now in the current era. So what does a storybook do? So basically, the storybook is kind of ecosystem, or let's say it creates a component library within you, where you can generate any kind of a buttons, you can generate any kind of a views, etc. And this will actually, like give you a much more, like kind of a library where, let's say, a product manager or, let's say it will create a library like this, and the product manager or designer can verify whether you can also play with this particular component, check how it's going to be interacted at multiple ways. I can also like set different kinds of times, etc., to see how it's visible, so that once this is something, given green from the design as well as the product teams, then the front end developments can actually, or let's say the front end developer can actually implement these components within that particular application. So it's also, like critical that, like these components are not being changed, so that before they go to production with these particular finalized changes, it will be, like much more easy for them to, like handle, or let's say understand, like what kind of change or components have been happening within the storybook. So we also do support this particular, like framework based testing, where I'll just go through the particular sample and run your demo. Need to reshare my screen. I think I'll be using local for this one. Okay, I hope my screen is visible now. I'll quickly open my file explorer, go to the sample. Mm, Okay. So this is the demo sample which has been, for the storybook. So I'll just quickly open up my terminal. Terminal is being started. Yep. So I'm using Windows PowerShell for the demo. So I'll just need to initially check whether it's my CLI installed or not. So I'll just quickly get to the documentation and show you how it can be installed. Yep. So this is the package which needs to be installed globally. So it is npm I at the rate lambda test SmartUI hyphen storybook, and this needs to be installed globally because it's a CLI package where you can use it at multiple projects as well. And this is the basic setup which needs to be done within your, like storybook setup. So I'll just quickly show that as well. So here within your dot storybook, there'll be two files. One will be main and previous. You can just select on main, and you have to add this within your features plugin. So storybook provides a lot of these kind of plugins and add-ons. So within this particular plugin, you can actually add features and then put build stories as JSON as true. And once particular that step has been completed, then you have to pick the project token. So where do you get this project token from? So you have to go back to this particular application, and within this particular credential section, you can actually copy the project token. So let's just copy the project token here. I think we have to create a new project because the other project which we have copied is from a mobile. So I'll just quickly create a new project now. Again, add approvers, create some tag. And since Storybook is not a like a real device project, it only supports web. So I'll be need to select the web as my platform type. Now have created the new project for Storybook. Loading. Load the page. Yep. So once the like new project has been created, you can actually like get the project token directly from here as well. So I'll just pick this particular project token, then go to my local. So I'll need to set this. So since it is a PowerShell, I'll just set this as project token. And then this needs to be in string. Sorry, that doesn't work here. Shell env. Yep. So now, like my project token has been set in env as well. I can also to export. So this is there in my particular, like local right now. Now for me to execute, it's very simple now. So I'll just go back to the documentation. Yep. So project token has been configured. Now, if you can also, like additionally, like create a configuration as well. So what for us to generate, this is a generated, automatically generated by a package. So once you do SmartUI.config and create smartui.config.json, it creates a JSON like this. So I can also show you that. So this is the particular, like configuration file which it got created. Yep. So where you can select, like what kind of browsers you have want to capture your storybook stories upon, and what kind of different resolutions you want to capture your stories upon. And if you want to include any stories, you can run a regex and run multiple lists of regex as well. Or if you want to exclude any stories, you can also do that as well within the comparison. So that is also possible. So I'll just check whether SmartUI CLI is installed in my local. Yes, it is installed. So now let's discuss about how to execute this test. So for us to execute the test, there are multiple ways how we can actually execute this test. So we can actually check for a locally hosted server. You can also check for a, like a build package. So once you actually make all those changes and run a build, and once that build has been completed, then you can actually, like use this particular build package to, run your tests as well. And if your like Storybook is already hosted publicly in some hosted URL which could be accessed, then in that particular case you can also mention your like URL here and run the configuration so that we'll capture all those particular stories and provide you the visual regression output for it. So for now, for this demo, I'll be using static build. So I just need to, like do npm run build storybook so that it will generate a static build like this. So I've already done that, and this is my, like static build which has been created. And I just need to copy this command and execute my tests on. So there are about total 9 stories in my current storybook project. As you can see, this is the URL at which the build's been already started, triggered. Now the build is in progress. It's actually capturing all these particular screenshots. So while this process is happening, we can actually go to the platform and check. As you can see, yep. So you might understand or be confused, like there are about 9 stories and why are there 27 screenshots which have been captured. So these 9 stories are actually rendered in 3 different browsers and one single resolution. So that's the reason it has been, like 9 into 3 is about 27. So it's captured 27 different screenshots. And as the combinations have been increasing, when you add more different results, then the screenshot counts also will increase accordingly. So now, since this particular, like build is the first build which has been run, it will be set automatically as the baseline build. Let's quickly check the screenshots captured. Yeah, so this is how your stories would look like. You can see different kinds of button components, secondary button, small buttons, header, different states, login, logout states. It could be different kinds of pages. You can need to do an introduction page, etc. Even those things also would be captured here. As you can see, you have captured in multiple browsers. So it's in Chrome. You can check, you can select Firefox to check how it's looking in Firefox. You can select Safari to check how it's looking in Safari. And if you have multiple resolutions as well, there will be a drop down here where you can actually check in multiple resolutions as well. And if you can want to report a bug or you want to delete this from the baseline, that is also something which is available. So just to show the comparison for the same, I'll run one more build. Let me make some small change within the stories. So the differences could be highlighted in the source stories. Let's say if I go here, page, okay. So I'll just say SmartUI demo or Testathon, and some text has been changed, and run the same again. Okay. Before I run it, I have to actually do a build. Run. I'll just quickly check npm run build storybook. Now it'll update my storybook package, which will create a storybook.static file again. Okay, this is because, okay, got it. I have to actually pass some legacy options. Just a moment, guys. Yep. Now I think it has captured all the modules required. So rendering all the stories, or let's say different kinds of files into chunks. That's it. You now have the new, like storybook static folder, which has been created now. Now I will be running the same command. So it'll be SmartUI storybook static and configuration of SmartUI.json and hit it again. Okay, so since there are no changes within my Git tree, so basically our storybook package actually uses a complete Git branching strategy, which I'll be discussing post this session. So for me to run this particular build again, I have to add additional flag called force and then do a rebuild of the same. Because there is no, like changes between the Git tree. So have to force the SmartUI to actually run the same build again, and then it will trigger the test. So while this is running, the build has been already created and the build is now in progress. We can check the same on the UI as well. As you can see here, we're having all these kind of different kinds of Git commit messages and Git commit IDs as well. So we use the native, like Git branching strategy for us to identify, okay, which branch you're trying to run your stories upon, and like what will be your baseline branch and what will be your non-baseline branch, etc., which will be discussed in the coming sessions. So now, as you can see, there's about like 9 places where we have found differences out of 25 screenshots. So we can quickly go and check where are they. Yep. So here there are a couple of changes found. So it says welcome and it says hello there. So this is one kind of a visual difference which have been identified. You can say, okay, this is something good to go, and you can approve on all different kinds of browsers as well. And now here comes the major change which we have done. So as you can see, this was demo with event and now it has been changed to demo for Testathon. So this kind of visual differences are now identified. I can also select and then approve this is something which is intended. There's one more change found in the same kind of document. I can also approve these changes now. Yep. So this way, like my current build is now approved and both these builds are now up, like made as a screenshot now. Let's say now I want to make very specific changes. You can also like to also discuss about this. So additionally, we also do provide, like all the report on the terminal itself. So if you are using, like some kind of a pipeline and you want to verify the results within that particular pipeline, it is also very easily doable from this particular, like a table or let's say the terminal results which has been generated here on the terminal logs. And now if I would like to actually check out the branch, I do a git checkout and say a demo testathon. So now it has been switched to a new branch. I can remove the force build and hit it. Yes. So as you can see now, this branch has been changed uh, from what we have actually run before on master. And now within this particular settings, there's an additional capability which will be added while the build has been running. I would like to discuss about that. Just refresh this. Yes, so as you can see, these settings were not being found in our previous projects, but here specifically in Storybook, these particular settings are enabled. So you can see a baseline branch name which has been set to master and auto approval branch name as well, which is to master or any other branch of your choice. So why do you need a baseline branch name here is because like it is very hard to identify the changes because stories could be, like multiple and you want to, like track them on a regular basis, right? So in that particular case, like the baseline strategy itself is here is completely different from what we have seen in the previous, projects or demo of Selenium or Cypress or let's say Appium. So here we are using the Git settings itself in what kind of a branch you have to make your baseline upon. So currently you have set it to master. And now what happens within this particular project or let's say the builds generated here is that ideally the first index build what has been generated is marked as a baseline here. And like the previous comparison happened to the first build only until unless explicitly changed. But here in the storybook, it will automatically manage by itself intelligently with the like the branch names. And according to our particular baseline strategy, what happens is that the latest approved changes which are being found in the baseline branch. So this is the one which we have approved all the screenshot upon. So this will be the baseline for this particular test execution, which is a non-baseline branch. So now if I select this, ideally in the previous scenario, it would have shown like that changes like test with Steven, and then the demo with the testathon. Those kind of visual differences would have been appeared, but here you will not see that particular visual differences at all because my baseline branch is now the build 2, as you can see. But in the previous executions and the previous way, or let's say the Selenium executions, what have been found, at that particular scenario, you have to explicitly mention your baseline branch. And you can also select this particular checkbox to see what is your latest baseline branch as well, whenever within, let's say, in the different kinds of builds which have been generated. Now, this particular branch will be considered as a non-baseline branch, and it will be comparing with the baseline branch screenshots every time. Let's go back. I think we have completed to the maximum extent of our current, book as well. Yep. So now for discussing about the, so before we discuss, I would like to actually show the baseline branching strategy. So this is the documentation which we have for our complete baseline strategy. So what happens is that let's say like this is your baseline and this has multiple screenshots. Then whatever your non-baseline has been generated. So these screenshots what have been generated within the baseline will be compared to them. And these are the settings which we have discussed where you have to explicitly mention that particular baseline branch name. And like yeah, you can actually set it up. And once you have set it up, it will look something like this. You can actually provide different kinds of commit messages, and those commit messages will be highlighted here on the UI. And I'll go to the strategies. Yes, so this is the first strategy. Let's say, like if I have set the baseline branch one and something has been executed, then it will be actually picking up the latest build and of that particular baseline branch, and it will be comparing them to that. And then you can also update your baseline branch name in the project settings so that whatever will be the latest whatever the latest build of that particular branch will be actually compared with the new build which has been generated. If there is no existing build and you have updated a baseline branch name on the settings, then whatever will be the first index build generated, that will be considered as a baseline branch. And yep, so we can actually, like detect changes with the git commits, which has been triggered. Then you can also check out two different kinds of like branches as well and run your tests for comparing with non-baseline branches. And we do an auto update of your baseline build as discussed, right? So once a build has been approved, so let's say you're running different kinds of tests within the same master branch, and we have found some changes. Okay, until unless those particular build changes are approved, you will not, or let's say our system will not make it as a baseline. So once they are approved, then it will make it as a baseline. So this is one of the intelligent features which we have. And this is the last one, which we have also tried, where there is no commit changes which are being made within the stories and you want to run the build again. Then you have to additionally pass this particular force rebuild flag. Yep. So that's majorly it from my end. Yep. So coming on to the roadmap, so we have like started working on the building our core NPM engine, which could be like some multiple languages and wrapper. And we also are coming up with a new PDF comparison module where you can actually upload different kinds of PDL files and take the same kind of visual, like differences what's been found here. And we also are coming up with a DOM structure comparison. What does that mean is that if let's say there is a button somewhere positioned before in your particular baseline screenshot at the header, and that particular button is now changed and it's being like added somewhere in the body content, then we will actually notify that like there is a change in the whole DOM element, or let's say that particular DOM structure itself, and is this something which is expected or not expected, so that way you can also do a complete not just pixel to pixel comparison but also DOM tree comparison. And yeah, we are coming up with much more like advanced machine learning based systems where we want to like bring in more like advanced phases, like what all the matching differences which are being found in your particular screenshots, etc. And we are also coming up with much more identifying different kinds of false positives which are very minute over the pixel to pixel comparison. Even that could be also reduced. Yep. So this is the kind of like current roadmap we have, and I'm open for Q&A. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Sri Vishnu. That was really insightful. Now moving on to the Q&A. I'll just pick the first question over here.
Okay.
Yeah. Screenshot option, will it also highlight report changes observed in UI across different browsers selected to capture?
Yes. So it does highlight uh, any kind of like report changes as well, which are like observed across UI.
So if there are two built running in parallel and both have different baselines, then how the screenshots will be compared to specific baseline?
So basically, like one project can have only one baseline. That is the kind of concept which we follow. And if two builds are running parallelly as well, they'll be compared to the same baseline images and it will verify according to the same. So, like, there won't be any kind of a two baseline, but let's say there could be multiple screenshots in that particular baseline, and you can run with the different names as well. Let's say in your baseline you have login page and register page, and you have run two builds parallelly, which one build will have login page screenshot and one build will have register page screenshot, and this is something which is doable, but you can't have two different baselines for these two separately. Yeah.
Yeah. The next question is, what is the difference between static build and locally hosted server?
So static build is something which is generated for you to deploy your storybook on production. And locally hosted is something, like if you want to run the server locally and you are making some development and want to make those changes. So that is where locally, if you want to, once you are a dev and you want to test it and you still want to run your visual regression so that before you even create this build and deploy onto the production, you want to test them, then that is also something which we do support.
How would we be? How would we add tag options while creating a project in Smart UI?
So this was covered in the section, so it's very simple. So once you click on new project, there itself, the third section, what you need to fill in the form. So first you have to fill the project name, second the approvers, and the third would be the tag. So you can actually type in there for you to simply create a new tag, and which is not available within the list, and click on enter. Once that is done, a new tag will be like added into the project.
We have a question that was in the chat. Will we also be able to test 3D images that might appear in different zoom angle?
So 3D is something which is in our roadmap currently for this year. So 3D blob images is something which we are working on. Currently, we don't support that in our platform.
Shweta has asked how it is different than real-time testing.
So real time, like you have to manually, like give all these screenshots, right? Like you have to provide the URL and then generate the screenshots, download those screenshots, and then check the different kinds of, like visual comparisons which are being done. But here, within your functional flow, like you can automate the scripts. Like it is actually reducing your time and effort which is being put here. So within your functional flow, you just need to, like add that particular webhook which have been shown in the demo, and that will actually capture all the screenshots where there is no manual intervention required for any of the caption process as such, and the build generation process as well. Uh, and it will automatically do that for you. What you have to only do, like where a manual intervention would require, if there is any kind of a mismatch found, our system would not know, like that is something which is expected or that is something which needs to be rejected. So that is where, like you have to come and you have to verify. Once that changes have been verified, then you can actually approve or reject that particular screenshot. Your choice.
We have one more question. Can we test animations on web pages?
Yes, Rachna. So we can definitely, test animations as well. But we have to freeze the frames of these animations and create multiple screenshots if you want to test it, and then compare them to your baseline versus non-baseline.
Great. I think we've come to the end of the questions as well. For the rest of the questions that were there, um, we have answered it in the comments itself. Right. Thank you everyone for joining the session. Sri Vishnu, thanks again for delivering such an insightful session. I just wanted to communicate to everyone that we have a quiz scheduled at 3 p.m. today. Please do join in. We will be sharing the link soon with you, and you would be able to attempt it from 3 to 3:35. All the best. And once again, like a gentle reminder on the certifications, uh, you have till 8th June 12 p.m. IST to complete your certifications if you want it to be considered as a part of the testathon. Otherwise, you have time. Um, and would to those of you who have already received the certificate in your inbox, please feel free to share it on social media. Thank you so much once again. See you. Bye.
Thank you all for being